Hi. Not the best videography for a video, but I'm here. I want to tell you about an accomplishment I made. And this is something that I never thought I can do. You know, I've reached a lot. I've started companies. I did all this blah, 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 news coverage and so on. But there was one thing that I was so afraid of doing. And I'm not really sure why. And it was going to the cinema by myself. Maybe it's Hollywood with its romantic approach or pop culture that makes movies something so unique and special. You go to a movie for a date, you go to a movie with your family, you're going for a movie for a night out. But going to a cinema alone, the only people I knew that do it are basically film buffs or people who works in this industry, and there is no way in hell that their families or loved one can catch up with them. I've seen it with people who are visiting theaters or music concerts because that's their job and they have to stay updated or to make critique or so on. But I really met a handful of people in my life that are regularly going alone to the cinema. For me, it was one of those things that I thought that I will be the weirdo guy sitting in the back in this darkness and, just munching on a popcorn. And people probably thinking, why is he alone? Is he lonely in his life? Or this person kind of is a sort of a creep? I used to have the same thing with restaurants. I thought that when I eat alone in a restaurant, it's kind of a social failure. Maybe it's culture, because where I come from in Israel, people are eating together. It's a part of social life, and it's a central piece of connection within families, within friendships, and outwards. You can go to a hummus joint and sit with random people because it's kind of a hot chair method. But it had to be broken. So why did I manage to do that? Because it was a necessity. I'm traveling to around 30 countries per year as a public speaker, and two things happened. At one point, I could not find in every travel day a meal companion. I did have interesting encounters with people when I just kind of joined their table or they joined me or in a bar or so on, but there's so much you can do to run away from being alone, or to run away from being with yourself. And at some point, it was a necessity. But on the other hand, when you travel so much and you're surrounded with people in the airplane, surrounded with people in a conference, there is networking, there are all these formal dinners and lunches and so on. And at some point, that was just a huge spider on my leg. At some point, I just said, I'm in a foreign country. Nobody knows nothing about me. Why am I here? And maybe when I eat, nobody is really, really caring about my chewing or the way I look or the way I sound or everything that may have been rolling into my head. So when this little barrier was broken, I could do anything regarding eating alone. Like, for me now, it's not a problem. There are other problems with lack of air conditioning in restaurants, and sometimes the atmosphere is not nice. But I really don't mind it. Of course, I prefer to have a sort of a dinner or something that has social consequences, not by myself. But I don't mind it. Cinema is a different story. With cinema, I actually still had this huge fear. And in 1 second, it just broken. And I don't think it was the same. I don't think that I just decided, I'm going to jump into the water, I'm going to go into the nearest cinema and just watch a film. I think it was much deeper than that. I think it's about self-connection. And I started to crave it in the last few weeks. I really said to myself, sometimes you're looking for somebody to go to the cinema with you just because you don't want to be alone. But it doesn't necessarily means that you want to be with somebody. And I have wonderful friends here where I live that are really into going to films together. And it's also common to have a drink before dinner, after, and so on. But sometimes you just want to watch a film. When you are in front of a streaming service like Netflix, I'm sure I'm not the only person who is just scrolling for like half an hour, not sure what to watch, and then, yeah, you're not even watching anything in the end of the day. But in cinema, you have simple choices. Maybe it's 4, 5, 6 movies. You have to make a choice. You cannot zap through. You cannot leave the cinema hall and kind of go inside another auditorium. Maybe you can, but I never did it. I think that it shows commitment. And because you have to choose, and it's so hard for us to choose, for me it's really hard to choose, I think that making a commitment about, okay, tonight instead of gaming or reading a book or staying home watching something, I am going to the cinema by myself. I think it's liberating because it's the actual easiest place to start reconnecting to yourself and spending time with yourself, because there is no judgment. Everybody's queuing up. They buy tickets, or they already bought their tickets online. You can or cannot or may not buy popcorn or drinks. Nobody in this queue is really caring about if you're alone or not. And then you're really starting the film. Lights goes off. And when they do, it's basically just like being in your own living room. The difference is that you are kind of drawn into this magical atmosphere that only cinema can offer. There is something comforting and something super focusing about the fact that you have to shut down your phone. It's dark, it's very quiet, and you kind of have to deal with yourself and the film. And it's one of the only places that I feel really connected to an activity that I'm doing. Maybe it's smartphone distractions or addiction or whatever it is, but cinema is maybe my only last refuge. Maybe also music concerts, but those come with other prices like loudness, overstimulation, and so forth. And I love music to bits. So giving myself this gift and allowing myself to be vulnerable to this fear of spending time alone with myself in an activity that is perceived as something that is very, very social, even romantic, was liberating for me. And it might be liberating for you as well. And it's as simple as that. You just go there, you sit there, and you watch a film. You cannot talk to the other person anyway. Sometimes when I'm with my partner, I whisper some things if there is any highlight in the film, trying to not cross the threshold of the shh from the other people. But if you think about it, most of the time you're really not talking, you're not looking at phones, you're not reading anything, you're not distracted. So it's the perfect opportunity to spend time with yourself. And when you go out from this movie, you feel alleviated a bit. You feel like, wow, like this was simple. And maybe it will allow you to spend other times and activities with yourself. Because self-connection, for me, it's one of the main keys for self-care, for self-intimacy, for self-love, and for feeling comfortable with yourself. In a world that is full of 24 hours, extremely overly stimulated, I think that learning to spend time with yourself may be your key to find peace again and feel belonging again and not feel alone, as much as it sounds contradictory, because you'll start to cherish more the times that you're not alone. Because one of the awful feelings that I can describe, for myself at least, is feeling alone while surrounded by other people. When you spend time with yourself and you enjoy it, but enjoy it truly, you are more present, you are more in tune with yourself, and you're just more happy. Those are moments that I always cherish. So next time that you don't have a date or just want to watch a movie and don't want to spend the time watching Netflix, and you want to go out and you really feel like going to the movies, just do it. No one cares.